focusing on the security challenge that we've got in the country, because it's, yeah, if you look through the dailies, you see some of them highlighted. But what do we do? Why do we have these kind of cases? What are we getting wrong? How do we get out of some of these cases? So that's part of what we're going to be considering and more this morning. We're joined by the retired Captain Umar Aliyu, a security consultant. Thank you for coming on again today.
Good morning.
It's huge. You know, while we looked at some of the challenges that state governors or public officials who have been elected will face, and then comes this one, and that was about water, provision of water resources. That's basic, and we're still talking about it in 2019. But then from that, you look at security. So it looks as if, look, wherever you turn, we just have one or two challenges, huge ones, that we need to address. But looking at this particular one, you're not surprised by this, are you?
No, I'm not. And it's not a challenge. It's a problem. A challenge or challenges are meant to be surmounted.
What about the problem?
Problems are intractable. Let me tell you why it's a problem. Those in position do not seem to be capable of surmounting the challenge, so it's not a problem. Okay? If we had a challenge here and all of you rolled your sleeves up and gave me some thumbs up results, then I can say, wow, that was a challenge you surmounted. But if we had a challenge and you kept coming to me with stories, then I have a problem. And I'm either going to change the team or I'm going to change the team.
So is that how you see all of these security situations that we're facing at the moment?
Yes. Let me tell you something about our profession. Insecurity is the downside of security. The purveyors of insecurity get bolder with every failure of security. And with every security success, you make a statement and kind of dilute the confidence of that criminal. So if you look at what is happening, you discover that the bandits in Zamfara, for example, are actually operating a la Boko Haram. They're coming in large numbers, using motorcycles, sometimes even vehicles, and sacking from streets to homes. They have now started taking little settlements. So they're getting bolder, they're getting bigger. And where are they taking cues from? Other successes. Other successes. So we could play ostrich, we could decide to say, no, we've succeeded. But then we believe in my profession that a chain, no matter how big, no matter how expensive, it could be a gold chain, can only be as strong as its weakest link. So if we were to take a sample populace and appraise it security-wise, we won't be going at your best shot. We'll be going to your weakest spot. Not because we want to cast aspersions, but because we want to bring your attention to where your adversary will go if he were to take a shot at you. He won't go to your strongest point. He'll go to your weakest point. And now when that weak link is not addressed, that weak link in itself becomes a conduit through which you begin to see other links crop up. So the system you are looking at is festering and lucrative. That is why you see a proliferation.
You know, we've had a similar discussion, maybe sometimes early last year, when you were sitting here and we tried to find out what the true problem is when we had Boko Haram attacks. And I remember one of your submissions was that some things needed to change with the security architecture in the country. But this one now, why is there a resurgence of attacks, especially in those areas, not necessarily in the northeast, but we seem to be seeing a spread? Why do we have a resurgence of these attacks?
The resurgence, as I told you, is simple. People get bolder There is a Hausa proverb, and it says, I'll translate that, but it says, baran da ɗaya zubar da zuma akan kwaɓe shi ba, ran da ya zubar da ruwa akan kwaɓe shi ko? Now what that means is, in the north, we believe that it's not the day your son spills honey that you take the whip to him. It's the day he spills water. When you take the whip to him when he spills water, you leave to his imagination what will happen if he spills honey. So it brings us to a favorite time of mine, which is nipping it in the bud. When things happen initially, you look at and profile that which has happened, and you make a statement. And that statement has to be handled and done in such a way that it deters other prospective future subscribers.
But that has been done.
Going that way. I don't think so. I don't think so. If I go back into history, I'll mention 5, 6 prominent names that were grabbed concerning the terrorists' nightmares we've had. And I don't think if we went out on the street, 5 Nigerians can tell you what happened to them. What do I mean? Sometime in 86, or was it 85, a man called Lawrence Ovibo Anini held sway. Armed robbery was to him as he was to armed robbery. When he was caught, he was handled and given the kind of publicity that has left him in my neurons to this day. But people just drop out of sight. We're not saying nothing was done about them, but who knows what was done? Have you exploited what we call mass persuasion through publicity to dissuade people from going that way? No.
Wait, when you mean what was done to them, that the public execution was not sufficient deterrent?
Listen, what did you call it? Public what? Sorry, I didn't get you.
It was the military regime at the time, wasn't it?
That's what I'm saying. It's not about whether he was executed or whether he was given an award, but he got the kind of publicity.
Okay, so that's
what we're saying. We tend, I don't know why, to shy away from giving these people the publicities they desire. A lawyer can tell me, no, you cannot show his face. Who said so? I could put my face on newspaper and write suspected XYZ on it. That's what the law says. You remain suspect until proven guilty. So what's wrong with telling the world this one is a suspected XYZ? We don't do that.
So you're saying that that scenario should be applied to our recent day scenario?
What is happening today has 3 solution compartments. We're in dire straits, so instant first aid, low-hanging fruit solutions. The legislators, the executive, and the judiciary must meet and bring about that law that will enable aggressive, bold, and very decisive posture for those who think they can enter into these crimes, as we have seen them proliferate and affect our national sense of being security-wise. People say the law, democracy. I understand. The law was not written by God. It was written by us for us. And where it's not beginning to work and give results, we upgrade, even if it's albeit in the interim. As situations improve, we can dilute that law. If they deteriorate, we're going to tighten the law. And democracy, for God's sakes, let us understand something here. Democracy has teeth. Democracy can bite. If you doubt it, go read America's history. It's the oldest democracy I know. So democracy is freedom of speech, freedom of action. That does not mean you can go do what you like and kill people. People have been burying bodies in 20s and 30s. These few days past.
But does that mean that we can't get the kind of results, or at least reduce all of this to the barest minimum without the laws being looked at?
Let me tell you something about my country. If you want to move this country forward, you have to burn the mess out of our public institutions and regulatory agencies. Those of them listening to me can cry. But you see, in my place again, we say, if you say your child won't cry, then that child will make you cry. So it's time now to put that process in place. You either give results or you give results. I see billions being expended. The billions get spent, but the results are not coming. So what did you spend it on?
Captain Aliyu, I have a bit of a confusion in my head now.
It's the Proverbs
Tell me
or which
about
one?
No. I feel what you feel. I mean, everyone is really concerned about this. The lead story in the Vanguard newspaper this morning is insecurity worsens. And what we saw yesterday was a headline that listed 5 states as having problems. Those 5 states didn't include Lagos, didn't include Kaduna, the ones listed on the front page of that newspaper yesterday. So now, this is probably off the park, and then we can go back into the conversation. There was a situation, a security situation in Bayelsa State during the Obasanjo government. And, well, of course, we all know what happened, the OD massacre and all that.
OD.
Is that the kind of decisive action you're talking about?
Not at all. Not at all. If the legislators, the executive and the judiciary met and decided to build a case and brought facts, what I said, the death toll, the figures together, and did a profile of the situation in any particular crisis-ridden area, and said, okay, in XYZ days, we've lost XYZ people. Add to that the cost of violence. Add to that the cost of security. Get a sum total of it. Do a GDP analysis. And look at our position on places like the Human Development Index or the Standard of Living Index. And what effect would this have on those places? Those are even what you want to call spiral effect. But immediately now, what's the effect on standard and what we call living conditions there? Can we continue like this? And then we decide to say, okay, you know what? It's so protracted, it's so intractable, that if we decided to take some approaches, there will be medium or long-term results. What are the immediate stabilizing effects? You go in there and say, okay, you know what? We're going to draw a line. And if you cross that line, this is what you get. Yes, this is what you get.
So does this mean that in the long run, we need a reorganization of our security architecture?
We don't need a reorganization. We need a clean out
of the security architecture.
I'm telling you, one day we'll run out of plots to bury people.
Explain this clean out.
What I mean is clean out. Let me tell you clean out. If I called a security chieftain and I said, look, I want this done, what do you think it takes to do it? Give me a report. And he says, we're going to do this XYZ much financially, ABC much time frame. I'll give you XYZ plus a third so you can have contingency. And I'll tell you, we're going to track results. There will be key performance indicators. There will be success measures. So you don't spend 70% of my money and tell me you've just achieved 10% of the results. Now, any chieftain who actually knows his onions will sit down and draw a road map for you. Day 1 to day 9, I intend to take this place and hold it. Day 9 to day 11, I intend to clean it out inch for inch. That's how it's done.
Isn't that what the Inspector General has initiated with this Operation Puff?
Puff adder. I don't know, we tend to have this thing for reptiles now. Crocodiles, pythons. Now we have puff adders. I have no problem with that. Bring up as many operations as possible. But the downside is, just as it is with us, we tend to overflog certain things. Once one thing is done, everybody latches on, it becomes vogue. And when you're not getting results that are commensurate to the media, the hype, the grandstanding, the public statement, and the demagoguery that greet the arrival of these operations, you begin to dilute the reckoning people have for these things.
What happens then for a state? Because right now the government has ordered that mining activities should be stopped there. People see the police, yes. Now, while some see this as a step in the right direction, I'm wondering what the resultant effect will be at the end of the day. Do you see the security plan moving in to have an on-the-spot stoppage of this? Well, how is it going to work? Is it the soldiers will go out there and then to mining sites, or will there be some little mining still hiding, taking place under the radar?
For me, as a field person, I still cannot connect how stopping the mining activity will actually dissuade that bandit from wanting to walk into the next home, sick somebody, and ask for 300 million. Yes, the mining activity may be one of the remote causes of what's happening there. It could also be the immediate cause of what's happening there. But what I'm saying is the immediate problem, not even the remote problem, is how do we take this bandit out, even if it's just one, so we make a statement to others that we mean business, no palliatives.
Just yesterday, we had the former commissioner of police in 2 states, and this works pretty much everywhere. And he made a statement that's, quite strong on my own mind, that the governor of every state has a lot of influence on how the security architecture of his state is drawn in the kind of conversation he has with his commissioner of police. How effective do you see governors playing? How effective do you see the role of any governor in these security issues that we're having?
First and foremost, I really do not feel comfortable with us ceding that kind of onerous presumption to a governor. You see, if you were in my profession, you will understand from the pronouncements of many of our politicians, governors inclusive, that the security sector, let me call it that, public security agencies, do not induct them pre-oath taking. A lot of them even do things that leave them close to dead. One was hanging on a vehicle and broke his leg. Another one allegedly took some money and was videotaped, and I was laughing. Does he have a chief security officer? How did that device even function within his immediate space? So you find people tending to look up to governors to do that which they really don't know how to. What I will expect to see in our situation today is for police commissioners to listen when governors talk politics, and for governors to listen when police commissioners talk security. But it's not that way, because the results we're getting underscore the fact that it's not. If you were my principal and I was your CSO, you don't have to know anything about security. Just tell me what you want to do, and if I don't get you there safely, I stand fired. I mean, Arsene Wenger was not a footballer, but he knew how to bring the right hands together. He picks scrap players from wherever, and when he's selling them, oh my God, you know how much? That's the know-how we're talking about. If you really know your onions, you don't need to say it. The results say it.
So what's going to be the strategy now?
The strategy, as I told you for now, immediate, low-hanging fruits, fast track, is we have to get to that place with a mighty stick. We have to set one or two examples, some scapegoats have to be taken. Ronald Reagan put it aptly. He said, you hold a mighty stick and speak with a small voice. Now in our stage, we've reached that state where you have to actually use that stick and clear every and all doubts as to who is in charge. And afterwards, you call them to the table and speak with a soothing voice. I mean, our parents do that sometimes, don't they? They first of all clear your doubts before they wake you up early in the morning and give you some kind of...
You know, but what is your impression then about, because they all get security reports, these political heads of different areas, and many are usually of the opinion that, look, what becomes of those security reports, or is it intel, whatever they call it? Is it that those security reports are not actionable? What do you think is the missing link from getting that report to the kind of results we're still seeing today?
Now we are assuming these reports are actionable. That's your assumption from the way you sounded.
Yeah, because if you remember, during the Boko Haram last government, they told us they were going to name the sponsors of Boko Haram.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave us the impression that they had that intel, they had information. And here we are today.
That's what I'm saying. Demagoguery is something we do well in this part of the world. I had a minister said he even knew who the sponsors were or who members of the sect were, but he was going to mention them at the right time. My take then was, okay, people are dying at the wrong time. So when the right time comes, he will say. That's to show you that, one, he wasn't inducted. Most of them, I don't think, were inducted security-wise. Okay? Induction for security is key. And I don't put the blame on their table per se, the office holders. I put it on the tables of the chieftains. They get busy doing a lot of grandstanding, but they don't really get into the nitty-gritty and dynamics of the job. I don't think we do a security appraisal of public holders individually. I don't think we sit someone down and say, you see, in the last quarter, you did well here, you did well there, you crossed the line here by saying this kind of things outside. Your conduct in XYZ place was a no-no. We don't.
You know, speaking about political authorities speaking when it comes to politics and security agencies speaking when it comes to security matters, and us not leaving things to politicians to take those key ultimate decisions, do we extend it to the people, perhaps in cleaning out the security architecture, as you say, by allowing the citizens have some sort of compulsory military orientation, training or something?
Well, if you want to do that, it helps. It does help. I tell you something, there is a mentality deficit, if I want to call it. Or let me say there is more negative mentality out there amongst us than there is positive mentality.
It's not a security awareness or what?
Yes, let me explain it to you like this. What do you think is Nigeria's biggest problem between these two words? Which one do you think occurs most frequently, security or insecurity? It's insecurity. That in itself is what you can call feedback. As for Operation Puff Adder, I won't say well done yet. I give them 1 quarter, 90 days. Afterwards, we compare notes.
Why do you think it won't work?
It's all a cyclic thing. It starts with a lot of hype, it starts with a lot of drive. 3-4 weeks later, we're back to square one.
Is Zamfara State not going to work? Because with the stop mining activity order that is given, we expect that, okay, we'll also have some military or some security presence within those areas so that we don't have further attacks on people, and those bandits will be maybe flushed out with Operation Adder. But what's going to be the case now?
Well, I tell you, Puff Adder, it's a good one. It's welcome. Okay? It's going to good. I assure you, profiling our nature of doing things. Give them the next 2-3 weeks. You're going to see a lot of drive, a lot of hype. You're going to see them stabilize. But let's do a litmus test of 90 days. What I'm trying to tell you is that we are notorious for, how do we call it, maintenance culture. We are notorious for poor men. We don't sustain anything. That's why we have so many operations coming and going. The operation idea is good, but then running it on the ground, tracking, getting data, and using data wisely. Off order is good, fine. Now let's see it work. 90 days hence.
Well, we'll have to anchor at that point and keep talking about these issues and calling people out where we need to, because these things must work. They just have to. We appreciate your coming on this morning. Captain
Thank you.
Umar Aliyo.